And we are live January 6th, which has been a crazy day for sure. But I think that we all can say that we can definitely use some distractions from what's going on right now here in the United States for sure. I've definitely Well, it's just been crazy. I cannot believe that the stuff that's going on in DC right now is actually happening, but it's happening. I think that that's something that we could have counted on. I think that that's something that was made very clear that those people were going to do that if Georgia went blue, which thankful for Georgia flipping the Senate, but crazy that is under attack right now, which is actually one of my favorite buildings in DC. So it's really sad that it's being destroyed. Oh, hello. My phone decided to take a jump. How's it going?
I'm doing good. Amy.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Does that say live or evil?
It says live.
Oh, good. It says evil to me, but you know what? Both are fine. We'll go with that.
Yeah, it's a crazy time. I feel like
it's a crazy day. I just heard you talking about what's happening in DC. I haven't been tracking the news too closely, but obviously Georgia's blue, pretty close to you, right?
Yeah. And DC is under attack, which is right beside me. So I've got a lot of friends in DC. Most of them are being smart and staying home and avoiding all of this craziness. I know that DC's got like a curfew going out right now so that hopefully it clears up. I mean, I was in DC with Jenner back in December and there was still craziness happening then. And so I'm not surprised that this is what's happening right now.
Are they storming the White House? Is that what's literally happening?
The Capitol building has been stormed. Like they busted through the doors and like they're actually in where laws are made and are actually like making a mess. So,
oh boy, the madness hasn't ended in 2020. You know, just because it's 2021 doesn't mean everything's all better.
Yeah, we've got to find new ways to be positive. I feel like I started these lives because of 2020. And I was like, you know what? Like, got to put some positivity out there. And I mean, a lot has gone right since you and I did our last live. So there's a lot of things to be thankful for. But obviously, there's still a lot in our country that needs to be fixed. So
I agree. And, you know, I think you have been a lighthouse of positivity all through 2020. And we need people like you going into, you know, the rest of this year. It's this big mountain time. This is a crazy time in this country. It's getting crazier. So,
yeah,
you know, we got to stick together. And I think one of the big themes about confidence is finding a community, you know, having other people that have your back. And I don't know, I love that you've done that with this account and your channel. So it's good to be a part of it, man.
Yeah. I mean, switching over to like the confidence topic, like I think that everyone's got like a journey to that self-confidence. And I think that after talking to a lot of people in like older generations, it's interesting to kind of hear like how free and like how different it is to be older and looking back at your life and saying, man, I wish I had like that self-confidence earlier on in life. So I thought it would be a fun topic to kind of discuss because I've definitely gone on a journey to self-confidence. I've definitely wouldn't have guessed I'd be where I am today based upon the lack of self-confidence I had back in the day. So I think it's definitely a fun topic to talk about.
It's a great topic, you know, and I was a little intimidated when you asked me because I thought, my God, do I really embody confidence? But you know what? I'm in a great place too with that. And it's also through, you know, coming through huge adversity and having a massive self-confidence crisis. And in a funny way, it's almost like when the stock market's down, right? You buy and then when it shoots up, you're doing great. You know, if you invest in yourself and take control of your life when you're kind of at that low place, that just compounds over time. Because then when things are going better, you think, man, I had so much strength when shit was really hard, right? And now things are better and your confidence just skyrockets. That's kind of how I look at it. I wanted to ask you though, you know, when you're talking about older generations, do you actually find that they have a lot more confidence than people like coming up in their late teens and 20s? Because that's kind of what I have noticed.
Yeah, I feel like as you get older, you realize that what other people think of you really does not matter. And
Yes.
I think within that, you start to gain self confidence because you realize that all the things you used to worry so much about really doesn't matter.
Yep.
And I think that that's why the older generations start to experience more self confidence because what the media tells us is like getting older is bad. Like you want to
Right?
hide age, you want to hide gray hairs, no wrinkles. Like, so you would think that it would be a decline. But what I've seen is a lot of the people in the generations above us, like they do start to gain confidence in their 40s, 50s,
Yeah.
where like people in their 30s, 20s, and teens like really struggle with confidence.
Well, look, I'm not saying anything groundbreaking here, but there's a freaking, multi-billion-dollar industry based on having low self-confidence.
Yeah.
We know how, much women, have been targeted, but men too. I think more and more. Even if you just look at the cosmetic industry, they do prey on fears around aging and that kind of thing. And it is such BS. You're absolutely right. Confidence almost seems to exponentially go up, I find, and it inversely correlates to just not giving a damn. Basically, it's that I'm in my 30s now, and I think about how much less I care about what other people think than I did about 10 years ago, and it's such a good feeling. It really is the feeling. I actually have it. I have this kind of like manifestation board. I know you're big on visualization and stuff. And one of the
Yes.
that is, it just says, who cares what others think? I just try to keep reminding myself of that. And I think back on things that were such a big deal in the past. And the thing I would tell my younger self is, nobody will care about this in a few months. Like, give
Yeah.
it months, and this thing that you're worried could be like a humiliating failure or something like that. Some risk I was going to take. I was so worried what people would think. People just do not care. And nowadays, the beauty of this kind of news cycle that we're on and so much information coming at you is people kind of forget about things in 24 hours. So,
Yeah.
your failures kind of just disappear in a way that they didn't in the past. They kind of lingered around and left a bad smell. So it's a great time to experiment and try things, and especially online. If you're a digital entrepreneur, take some risks, right? Because it could exponentially take off, and if it doesn't, it just gets forgotten so quick, right?
Yeah. That's definitely. I feel like for me, like when I realized that I was surrounding myself with people who didn't like empower me as a person. I think that as I realized that once I start pushing the bad people out of my life, people who would make me feel judged for who I am, people who, when I would strive to do something I'm very passionate about, who would belittle my like ideas and goals for myself. Like once I kind of pushed those people out of my life and started placing people in my life that actually believed in me as a person, like I started to realize that my confidence was really just being torn down by the things that were around me. Whereas, like, as soon as I started placing, people are like, you've got this. Like, it didn't matter if I fell down or failed at something. Like, I had such a support system behind me that I didn't feel that pain that I used to feel when I was in college, when I was in high school, when I first started jumping into the professional world. And for me personally, like doing life coaching stuff, age doesn't really negatively impact me. Maybe modeling, that would be something I'd get slapped with. But like life coaching, like when someone sees a gray hair in here, like they're like, he's smart. So for me, like I was actually dealing with the struggle of people looking at me and saying, wow, he looks like a child. And for me,
Yeah.
that was really stressful for my life coaching career because I was just like, no, listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not a child. So confidence, I just feel like the more I get into it and the more I've surrounded myself with like good, inspiring people, like people have asked how I've gotten to know like you and other people that I've done lives with. And I was like, honestly, like creative people, entrepreneurial people, people who are like pushing towards goals and stuff naturally gravitate towards each other. And honestly, like the connections with everyone have become so much stronger since I've put a strong focus on like moving forward in a great direction.
For sure, man. And look, it wasn't like you had to do some big pitch to me or anything like that. I mean, I took one look at your account. I mean, I knew kind of within seconds. I was like, oh yeah, I totally resonate with this dude. And you know, I'll tell you another thing about confidence. It wasn't like an intellectual decision. It really isn't anymore for me in terms of people I want to work with or even just get some time to. You just feel it on a gut level. And I really encourage people to trust that. That's something you learn to trust more over time, I would say. You know, if you're overthinking things so much and trying to convince yourself, it's usually wrong. You know, you definitely need that congruence between here and the gut. I will push back on one thing about modeling. I never booked a modeling gig in my 20s. And it actually started doing it in my 30s. So there you go. And actually, I'm here in Portland, Oregon. The model I know who works the most is probably late 40s. So
yeah, I feel like for men in general, like age doesn't hit us as hard as like women do when it
she's a
comes
woman,
to.
actually. She's with my agent here.
Okay.
And but here's the, I mean, she just takes great care of herself, you know, so she kind of stands out. And that is kind of the nice thing with age, actually, if you're an actor or a model. If you're in good shape in your sort of 40s or 50s, boy, do you stand out, right? Because if you're in good shape in your early 20s, everyone's kind of like, well, yeah, you know, we all live when we're 22, you know, so I think you're great stuff outside of modeling, though. But I'm just saying, you know, maybe those gray hairs, if they start coming in, might be
might benefit me some way.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like when it comes to confidence, I think that there's so many different levels to confidence. Like someone might be very confident in the way that they look, and then when it comes to their intelligence, maybe that's something that they're not really confident about. Or when it comes to their financial stability, like confidence might not be there. Like I think that some people look at models, they look at athletes, they look at people in one small area, and they just envy that person based upon the confidence in one area of their life. And they just assume that this confidence is like their whole life. But they don't realize that that confidence, like you can be a model in a photo shoot and be struggling at home with lots of other things. And for me personally, like I love to put myself out there. I love to talk about my vulnerabilities because they exist. And I don't ever want someone to look at my page and just be like, I wish my life was like his. I'm just like, hey, like, here's some great parts about it, but like, I'm struggling too. And I want people to be like, I want to gain self-confidence for myself and go do exactly what I'm meant to do. You don't have to do it my way to live a successful, happy, confident life. Like I'm only one like avenue of that. And I struggle every day with a lot of different things.
Me too, man. Look, I woke up actually not feeling too good today. And I was like, God, am I really meant to be expounding on confidence later today? How the hell? But then, you know, the kind of self-care kicks in a little bit. That's the thing I've learned with age, and kind of like, no, you'll be fine, man. You know, have a coffee, go easy on yourself, watch a YouTube video, just ease into the day, don't push yourself. It's interesting. I've read a lot of studies about how positive self-talk really does as much for you as a therapist or a friend giving you positive self-talk. It can be quite comparable how much of a boost you get from actually just being nice to yourself. I want to add something to what you said, you know, in terms of models and actors. I mean, a lot of my friends are in that industry, and God love them. They are the most insecure, neurotic people I know. And I get it, you know, because here, you know, it's a feast or famine career, as you know. You book a job that you might make a ton of money on, and then you might not work for 2 years, you know. And I think the one thing I've noticed with people who do have that consistent confidence is just kind of the gratitude practice. Not to get too new agey, but even though you're ambitious, still taking stock of, hey, it's not too bad where I am right now. You know, here are the good things about where I am right now. I find that constantly striving, always on to the next goal, always on to the next thing, that can actually undermine your confidence because you never really stop and smell the roses. And I think the other thing too, you know, I think about, I won't name names, but you know, I've got a few friends who are actors and they've kind of done it. You know, they're kind of like living the dream. Like they've gone to Hollywood from Australia, they've booked work, it gets bigger and bigger, they're making a ton of money. But the thing is, the goalposts just keep moving. It's like, oh, I got paid $70,000 for a movie. Well, next time it needs to be $150,000. And then it's suddenly like, why am I not getting offered $1 million to be in a movie? You know, my quote's coming in low and they're depressed about it, you know? And it's like, look at where you are.
Yeah.
Right? And then once they get paid $1 million, it's like, well, now I need to be taken seriously and I've really got to get nominated for an Oscar. And so, you know, I'm being serious here. It just keeps moving. And there's actually a term, I think it's something like, oh my God, what is it? It's called deprivation super reaction syndrome, which basically means if you feel you have something in your grasp and then it gets taken away, even if you never got it, you're disproportionately depressed. So I think we have to watch. That makes sense, right? You know?
Yeah, most definitely. Like I grew up with a family who you were never good enough. You were never like you could literally be perfect, like all A's in school, like you win the awards when you do different things, and they're like, "Oh, well, this could have been changed. This could have been better." So, it took me a really long time to get to a point where like when I accomplished something that I actually allowed myself to celebrate that moment.
Yeah.
And once I realized that that moment could be celebrated and didn't need to be torn apart by criticism, like as soon as I understood that that was a moment that I needed to just stop, don't move the goalpost further right now. Just take that moment and like enjoy it, celebrate that moment with your friends. I still struggle with that on a regular basis, and I do still have friends that are just like, "Hey, you're doing it again." Because like my mindset is just like I could have done this better. I could have done this better. And I do sometimes find myself comparing myself to people who are further ahead of me in certain things, and I have to pull myself back. And I'm like, "Okay, 2020 was a rough year, and I still found a way to pull myself forward in a lot of different avenues in my life." And I'm just like, let's celebrate those moments. And like, I do like this reel every year at the end where I post all the positive pictures that like happened that year. And that's what I remember every year for that year. I wipe clean all the stuff that was rough. And I remember the lessons I've learned and the great moments that I had. But all the bad stuff, it just needs to be left in that year. Like, it doesn't need to come forward into the next year.
Dude, I love that. And it's so good to do that consciously because psychologically we're hardwired to focus more on the negatives. I don't know if it's some evolutionary design or something so that I don't know where it comes from. I guess it's so you don't end up getting eaten by a tiger or something. You know, like don't go over there, you might get eaten, so you remember the negative more. But that's great, dude. You have to focus on the positives. Think about how far you've come, right, in say 10 years, but then look back at each little milestone.
Yeah.
You probably thought each one was the one that you needed to get to. Kind of like, if I can just get there, it's going to be good, you know? And as we're saying, the goalposts keep moving, whatever industry you're in. You know, for me, it was like, I've just got to make this first documentary film. If I can do that, I'm going to be whole. And then once that happened, I was like, well, now I need to make a feature film, you know, a fictional movie. Then I'll be whole. And it just goes on, you know? So if you can't stop and smell the roses.
Yeah. I mean, the point of like happiness is to live it every moment in your life and not set it to a future date. Like I think when it comes to like creating content, there's a lot of people out there that post pictures, post videos, create films, and they instead of enjoying the moment of creation, which is like a beautiful thing, like creating anything and getting to share it with the world is like a fabulous thing that technology has gifted everyone pretty much. Like we all have that ability now. And that's a beautiful thing to look at. Whereas there's still a lot of people that stress themselves out in the creating part,
Yeah.
post it, and then their happiness is supposed to come with a number afterwards. So it's like, well, this post didn't do as well, or this didn't get as many views as I'd hoped. I put this much work and I didn't get this many likes. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
like happiness isn't after the post. Happiness is the creation of everything. And after you post it, it's the world's to enjoy. That's their happiness now. Now it's your turn to enjoy that happiness you've created for someone else, and it's on to the next project to enjoy that moment as well. If you look at life that way, like every step is going to be a moment of enjoyment. And I mean, confidence it doesn't come from looking at numbers and expecting people to like your stuff. That's where like the confidence starts to be pulled down, because if your confidence depends on someone else liking you, like, it can be bad.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and look, trying to get that validation through social media is kind of like a one-way trip to hell. I know that's ironic because we're both people who are, you know, using social media to build careers, but that is absolutely part of it. I think the other thing too, from me anyway, that it takes all the fun out of content when you're just trying to reverse engineer it. Like, well, this thing I did was popular, so if I do something like that, I'll get that kind of traction again, and then you kind of work backwards. That can be kind of a grind. That can be kind of grueling. I think what you're saying is better, where you just you tap into something authentic, and whatever story you want to tell, whatever message you want to put out there, you keep doing that. And I think the beautiful thing is you never quite know what's going to connect. I'm often surprised by what ends up doing well, or that people respond to. I don't know if it's the same for you. I don't know if you can kind of predict it. I've stopped predicting really, like, what's
Yeah.
going to be, because I just don't know anymore. All I've noticed is if I keep putting the effort out and showing up, and to your point, kind of enjoying the process as much as I can, you just occasionally get surprised, like, oh, people really like that thing I did, or that photo, or that post, or live. And then it becomes this kind of fun thing, like, oh, okay, cool, what a lovely surprise. You know, I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to creating online, like, I think that it requires a lot of confidence. I think that a lot of people don't post stuff out there for the world to see. Like, there's artists who sing that will only do covers of other people's music because they lack the confidence to put their own work out there. Because if someone criticizes a cover, it doesn't hurt as much as if someone criticizes your work that you've put your heart and soul into. I know that when I put content out on the internet, like, there's a lot of times where I'm just like, my confidence, like, if I didn't really have confidence creating it, like, I do sit there and I'm just like, my confidence is teetering as
Yeah.
I see like the people's perspectives on what I put out there. And I did have to kind of take a step back and be like, you know what, like, I did it because it was something I believed in, and it was a message that I wanted to put out into the world. And thankfully, like, when people are messaging me about watching older videos on my platforms, like, my brain, I just say, just remember that that was at that point in time. That's how I felt at that point in time. I haven't watched any of my old stuff, but every time I go back, I'm like, I still feel that way. So I feel like as long as you like are true to yourself,
Mm.
like, don't create content that you don't love because you think that it's going to get you a following. Create content that you love, and eventually you will tap into that following. Like, they're out there. This world is big. There's no way that you are the only person in the world that feels that way about something. And I think that you're going to end up with a better crowd of people anyway, surrounded by people that think like you.
Yeah, for real, you know, because they're actually going to be responding to the real you and vibing off that. Like, it's all this vibe, you know, like I said, when you kind of reached out to me, I kind of knew in seconds that I liked the vibe. I could just tell. If you're creating a phony vibe or reverse engineering it because you think it's going to be popular, how long can you sustain that for? You know what I mean? How can you keep doing that day after day, week after week, month after month, the time that it takes to build an audience online? You're just going to burn out. So I agree with you. You might as well be authentic. At least then people are going to stay around, you know, because they're. I kind of wanted to ask you, when was the low point of the self confidence? You know, you said you've come a long way. If you don't mind me asking, what feels rock bottom to you? You know, when you look back.
I It was definitely when I was in college. It was right around like the time when my granddad passed away, when my long-term relationship ended. Friendships were just kind of disappearing left and right, and it was because I was holding on to things that really weren't meant for me, and I was really judging or like basing my value off of things that I thought were necessary in life, and it was just holding on to things that weren't really mine to begin with. And when I started, like, things just started falling left and right, instead of saying this wasn't meant for me, I was like, I'm worthless. The reason this stuff is disappearing is because they don't, like, I'm worthless and I don't deserve any of this. They're better than me. And it was such a horrible downward spiral for me. Like, and it took me so I actually made a post on Facebook where I was talking about how, like, nothing was going right. I had nothing. And it really took a friend just commenting underneath saying this message really hurts me as someone who really cares about you as a friend, because you sitting there saying you have nothing when you've got people like this and this who love you so much. I was just like, wow, I've been focusing on the wrong things, because I literally was focusing on people who were horrible people and destroying myself when I had people who loved me for exactly who I was, rooting for me, and I was ignoring that. I wasn't paying any attention to it, because what I thought I needed and wanted was walking away. But what I had and was so lucky to have already was a group of people that loved me for everything that I was, who literally, in so many small ways that I never noticed until I looked, they were like sticking the sticks in there to support my dam that, like, I was destroying. I was just like putting dynamite in and just destroying it. And I had friends that were like sitting there, like taking the bombs out, like putting sticks where it needed to hold the dam up. And it wasn't until I, like, shifted my focus and realized that I was really lucky in a lot of ways. Like, there are so many things in life that I think that we were born to do and we were born to be a part of. And so life has a funny way of making us focus on the wrong things. And it wasn't until, like, I really shifted and realized, like, hey, like, you are you and people love you for that. And you're the only person you're going to be 100% like perfect for is yourself. And it was really the mind shift that made me realize, like, you got to stop focusing on that stuff. Like, if it walks out of your life, let it walk out of your life, and don't tear yourself down. Like, when relationships went bad, I was like, I'm worthless. This is horrible. Like, I did this wrong. I probably did this wrong. It's probably because of this. When I shifted my focus and I was like, you know what? We just weren't right for each other. We're both great people. Like, we're just not meant, like, our paths crossed. They were walking hand in hand for a little bit, and now we're going this way. And when you can let people walk out of your life and not destroy yourself, doubting anything that you did, like, it's important to grow, but don't destroy yourself. Like, the world does that enough. You don't need to be one of those people destroying yourself.
Ain't that the truth, man? Yeah, you got to have your own back, because there are going to be a lot of haters out there ready to tear you down. But it's interesting, what you're talking about is kind of like, you had this narrative about yourself that was negative, and I suppose a lack of self-worth at that time in your life, which I can relate to. I've certainly been there too. And so in a way, you're looking for anything that confirms that. As bad as it feels, it also is kind of perfect, like jigsaw pieces interlocking, because you're like, ah, yes, that does confirm it. I am a worthless piece of crap. You know what I mean? It's almost satisfying if you're in a bad place to find evidence of that, and you'll create evidence. And I sometimes think you can bring toxic people into your life, or toxic relationships into your life, just so at least the narrative is consistent, that I'm a worthless piece of crap. At least I don't have to break that paradigm into a million pieces. Because sometimes it's easier to just stick with the status quo.
Yeah.
Man, I love that story. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's a big thing, you know, in terms of confidence being undermined, having toxic people in your life. And it's something I struggle with a little bit, because sometimes you have people that love you and they'll give you the hard truth, you know, and that can be, like, helpful. But then you have people that are actually just toxic and undermine you. And I guess I'm going to ask you a question, because I don't necessarily know the answer, but do you ever have a hard time telling the difference? You know what I mean? Like the real friend who's just giving you some truth bombs and they love you, they want you to get better, versus someone who's actually just tearing you down. Because sometimes they can look pretty similar.
I feel like I've gotten pretty good at whacking those people out of my life pretty well. It definitely took some backstabbing along the way. It honestly, I think it was more of me saying, "Why are you keeping these people in your life when they're making you feel bad?"
Yeah.
And I think you can generally tell if someone is trying to do it to like help you, because sometimes, like if you have a flaw, I think you're aware of it, and a good friend will help you out. Like my friend Cassie, like her and I have been doing this YouTube thing together, and I will get focused on the numbers, and she's like, "Stop it, don't do that." Uh, and sometimes my head gets big when things happen for me in life, and she's like, "Hey, pull it
Yeah.
back down." And the way that she does it, I really appreciate it, because like it means the world to me that people keep me grounded.
Hmm.
But like then there's people who see your success and become envious of it, jealous of it, and they feel like they almost have to deflate anything about you.
Yeah.
Like I feel like when it comes to those types of people, like it's all about that gut feeling you were talking about. Like, does it hurt
Yeah.
more to have that person in your life? Like, when you are in a moment of celebration, are they there celebrating with you, or are they like poking holes in your celebration?
Mm.
Whereas, like, when you've celebrated and you come back down and you're talking, uh, that's when the people are like, hey, like, don't let it go to your head. Like there's still some things you need to work on. Like you're not right all the time. Like I've had people comment like on my posts that I've shared about political things, and they're like, hey, like come down a little bit. And I mean, I appreciate that type of stuff, but
Yeah.
I think it's gotten pretty obvious. Like it's when you're celebrating, like people shouldn't
Yeah.
try to tear you down when you're celebrating.
Totally. I think you're right. And it's almost like the theme of this talk we're having is just going back to that gut feeling. And I think you kind of ask yourself, where's this person coming from? Um, does this person really want me to be successful and happy? And if they do, then you can probably take something that could be a little critical as constructive criticism. You know, like your friend trying to keep you grounded in the highs and also pumping your tires up when you're a bit low and maybe the numbers aren't quite what you want. That's taking you on a path to success. That's helping you get where you want to go and have longevity as a content creator and not burn out. You know, I think that's what she's doing. So that's a great example of someone constructive criticism, but they're helping you. For sure, though, if someone's coming at you with negativity when you're on a high, that's a telltale sign. I had this weird thing, you know, with one of my longtime friends. It's kind of it's interesting. I did some post, you know, I guess it was a little bit of a sexier post on Instagram, right? Because honestly, you know, I've made my image a little bit sexier because hey, sex sells. What a revelation! But you know, so I put this thing out there, and this friend of mine just wrote to me, sent me a text, not even a comment, just this paragraph, just like, look, I know I'm just kind of coming at you and you didn't ask for my feedback, but I just want to tell you, I think this photo is hideous. I just think it's awful. I think you look vain and terrible. And I'm telling you this because I'm your friend and I love you. That was such a mind F-U-C-K. I didn't know what to make of it. Incidentally, it was probably the most popular picture I'd ever posted. I only mention that because it gave me this massive cognitive dissonance of kind of like, well, people seem to like it, but then my buddy is just slamming me for it. And I just couldn't figure it out. And I think in a funny way, it was almost like he knew it would be popular and he was deflating me, not in an ego way, because I'm not, it's not egotistical posting something like that. It's kind of intentional to make the fitness stuff a bit sexier. But I did get the gut feeling he was deflating me without trying to help.
Yeah.
So I think you're so right about the gut feeling. You know, when that alarm bell's ringing, you got to listen to it.
Yeah. And I mean, I've also posted pictures which have gone more along the lines of I'm going to gain sexual attention from people
Sure.
looking at this picture. And I've had friends reach out to me, and their comments were more along the lines of like, hey, like, I know that a lot of things that you've talked about in the past is like how you don't enjoy being talked to in a sexual way. You don't like people talking to you like a piece of meat. Is this picture that you just posted falling in line with the values that you say are like your core values?
Yeah.
And I think in that sense, my friend was literally like looking out for my best interest. I would say if someone were to say that my picture was hideous,
Right.
like, I would say that's more of a they see something that they aren't able to obtain and they want to pop your enjoyment out of it. They're destroying your like celebration on something that might do really well.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important. Like here recently, my friend Eddie actually had a YouTube channel when we first started hanging out again after college.
Hmm.
And my channel was newer than his at that time, and it started taking off faster than his did.
Right.
And Eddie has been one of those people who every single like mile mark I hit, he is like sending me celebratory like stuff, just like, oh my God, you hit this one, you hit this number, you got this many views. Like he has always been that person that celebrates any success that I have. And he's actually dating someone who is on this season of RuPaul's Drag Race.
Oh,
And
wow.
so his numbers after the first show aired just like started jumping so fast.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be happier for him. Like I love it that because he's always been an amazing person. And there are people that see that and they're like, oh well, he's only getting views because of the person he's dating. And I'm like, so what? Like
What?
that's
God.
that's his life. And I love that he is like living out like I've always thought that he deserved the attention. And a lot of people that I do lives with, like I hope that the people that are following me will go follow you guys, because
Hmm.
the people I bring onto my lives, like I want to see them be successful, because I think that there's a lot of people that deserve to be in the spotlight instead of some of the people that are in the spotlight now. And I'm super excited to see where things go for him. Like I love seeing my friends have success. Like one thing that I read recently in a book was we're only gifted so many times in our own lifetime a time to celebrate our own success. And if we learn to celebrate with everyone around us, then our life is full of celebration. But if
Yes.
we only celebrate our own success, then it's going to be a life full of not very many celebrations. And they said like in the like auditorium of success for a show of success, there are endless seats. So
Yeah.
to celebrate success with others, like that's it makes life more fun.
Oh,
And
I so agree with you. I so agree with you. And it's the old boats rise with the tide philosophy. It's that there isn't this scarcity of success. You know, that is the mindset to get away from, which is that if this guy or gal is successful, that means I'm not going to be. And as time goes on, as you get a little bit older, you see how the world works, you just realize that is just not how it works. That is just not how it works. And to your point again about the gut feeling thing, I so think this is you know, when someone's really your friend and you love what they do, you don't even need to think about it. You feel joy. It just rises up inside when they're doing well. And so I would say if it's more a feeling of envy or there's some negatives, maybe you're not actually in alignment. You know, maybe they're not a true friend. Because I agree with you. Anybody that you really love and care about, their success is like your success. Sometimes better, honestly. You know?
yeah, I mean, you don't have to do all the hard work. You get to celebrate with them without any of the hard work behind it. I mean, sometimes you'll help your friends out, but like you get to celebrate that moment with them. And I mean, it's fun. Like, I don't understand why more people don't do it. And like you were saying, like, there's
Yeah.
infinite amount of energy that can be used and created into success. And too many people, I think, are looking at life as like a pie.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, no, like just enjoy every moment that you can. And it is all about what you focus on. Like if you focus on the people that tell you you're ugly and that you're worthless and that you'll never be successful, like that will become a reality. Like your
Yeah.
confidence really does come from the environment that you create around yourself.
Oh my God, absolutely. And it doesn't even have to be people. It can be media, or it might be, I love sports. So there are some athletes that I love to see them win or see them perform well because it's contagious, And to your point, when you have a friend that does well, it's almost like this vicarious high. I find it often. Okay, so we're talking about being selfless and just supporting someone, but I'll even make a selfish argument for it. Is that, like, if I have actors that are friends who I just know have been slogging it along, and then they get some big part, they book a pilot, some crazy dream job comes through. Not only am I happy for them, but doesn't that validate the path I'm on too? Isn't that like a reminder that, look, this person worked hard, they stayed with the course. That could happen for me, So I think it's a good feeling anyway, in a selfless sense, but I can make a selfish argument too, for celebrating others. It's kind of like a free shot of adrenaline and kind of a booster. Like, yes,
Yeah.
I can too, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was doing a live with my friend Ty, who's also in like the acting field of things. And one thing that he was saying was like, he used to experience envy of females that were his friends that got parts that he couldn't even get. Like, they're not parts for him.
Yeah.
But he was jealous of their success. And when he flipped the switch of, instead of being envious and jealous, like, he celebrated their success, like, his mood was completely different. Like, he was able to go through life happy. Like he said before, like, he was depressed about someone else who auditioned and got a role that he couldn't even like audition for.
Yeah.
And when he realized that that's what was happening, like, that was the wrong type of focus. Like, when you make that shift, like, life does change. And I mean, I was the type of person, I've said it millions of times, like, I needed more information than just like, you have to be positive and life will be better. So I studied it all the way down to like genetics and how your body breaks down positivity versus negativity. And your body literally just deteriorates when you're negative versus being positive is just like, your energy is just like positive. That's why they say when like people are sick, when their mindsets are like, I'm going to die, I'm giving up, like, they die really fast. Whereas when people are like, I'm going to beat this, I'm going to survive, I'm going to see my grandchildren grow up, like, those are the people where it's just like the doctors can't even explain it because their body was just so full of positive energy that things were like reproducing and cleaning out any toxic stuff in their body. Not saying like that's going to solve every health issue ever, but like a positive and a negative experience, there is a really big difference.
100%. Yeah, and as you say, I think that goes along with Western medicine and needing medication and things like that. It's that both together. Yeah, I mean, the effects of cortisol on the body, the stress hormone, and when you really get filled with that are incredible. We really do just fall apart. It is quite extraordinary. I've looked into that a little bit. Do you have anything that's a bit of a mood hack for you? If you're feeling low on confidence or low energy, is there anything that you can do to pump your own tires up?
I mean, for me, like, I know that music is like a huge thing for me. There is literally like so life is hard, and being a positive person, like, I get people who want to just destroy me. Like, they want to tear that down. They cannot stand to see someone being successful and saying that positivity is the way to go. And there have been so many times where I'm just like, it's not worth the amount of hate that I get every single day. But then I just like turn on that music and I try to find music that's just like, you've got this, like, let's just explode that mountain in front of us and just like keep on going. Cause like at the end of the day, like, you're gonna do this. And honestly, there have been so many times where I will be in my car like crying, just saying, I don't got this. Like, I don't know what I was thinking taking on this task, but I am not cut out for this. And I just flip on the songs and I'm just like, you know what? Like, I wasn't built to break. Like, I am way stronger than that person thinks I am, and let me show them what I got. And music really just like flips it for me. Like, I jam out to, I've literally got like playlists upon playlists to build up my self-confidence, and it works all the time.
Dude, I'm so with you. I could care less what people think. I have, I got some rap, but I also got a lot of pop music. You know, I love Blink 182. You know, it just makes me happy. I really seek out happy music. I was listening to Lizzo before doing this. I was listening to Girlfriend by Avril Lavigne. I don't know why. That song puts me in a great mood. So
So the
people have
person I'm
my musical taste. They're like, God, it's so basic. I'm like, I don't give a crap. It makes hope your music makes you feel half as good. So I
yeah.
support it. I definitely, for me, look, good coffee is a mood booster. Just stretching or moving, dude, a 5 minute walk can change your world. There've been a lot of studies done on that too, just blood flow. A gentle walk around the block can kind of change your world. Um, Certainly mirroring stuff, you know, look, this thing here, this is a sports score. It's from Super Bowl 51. I won't get in the weeds with it, but this was, you know, the team was down 28 points to 3, and they came back and won it, you know. And I look at that because I'm like, no matter how down I am, you can always come back and win, you know, like stay in the game. That's the message that I want to look at. I'm going to put this on my wall. Pretty much going, you know. And I think where you pull from, like music, TV shows, sport, whatever makes you feel good, just go with it, you know, and don't give a crap what anyone else thinks about your taste.
Yeah.
I had a few other things I wanted to get into about just things that have made me confident over the years, but you should hit me with any other questions or things that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Go for it. Whatever you
Really?
want to bring up, let's do it.
Well, I was just thinking about like the Hollywood, you know, we both got friends that are actors and stuff like that. And I was just thinking about how auditioning is such a confidence thing, right? And I was thinking about how anytime I've really, really wanted a job and like gone into the room and kind of had this desperation of kind of like, oh, I would just do anything for this part. I never get it. I never get the part. So often I will get the part if it's not that I don't want the job. It could be a great job, but I'm just kind of like busy with other stuff. And I'm almost irritated that I have to do an audition. I'm like, God, you know, like this Uber costs $40 to get here. I'm going to be running the next thing. And all right, let me just quickly do this thing. And then you get it. It's like they can smell it. So the point of all this is to almost trick yourself into not having too much reverence. I think, especially with acting, you can sometimes have too much love of the craft and maybe worship the director and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes putting yourself in a mindset of being a little bit less in love with it really helps. And it's a mental hack that's helped me because it's just a funny thing with human nature. Whenever you exude desperation, people will want you less. But I suppose it's that principle of scarcity. If you're a little bit like, well, you know, I guess I'll do this job. You know, if you want me, if I'm right for it,
Yeah.
I'm not going to beg for it. It's amazing how having that in your back pocket helps a lot. And I think it applies to a lot of things in life.
I mean, if you think about it, if you're going into a role that you really, really want, you are probably lacking some confidence in yourself
Right.
because you are starting to think that there are other people out there that are also talented auditioning for this, and you are focusing on your lack of something. You're like, I don't have this. Like, there might be someone else that's better, but you want it so bad that your brain is starting to bring some negatives in because
Yeah.
we all suffer from lack of confidence in ourselves.
Yeah.
And like you said, like it is shown through our actions. And when you go into something that you don't really want or don't like, it's not just something that you just really want in your life. Like you're not as scared of screwing it up. You're just like, I've done this 1,000 times. I know what I'm doing. I actually had a live with my friend Jean Paul, who he played lots of characters at Disney and made the shift to Hollywood in California. And he went through the whole like learning to love himself 100%. And he was talking about how now when he goes to auditions, like he doesn't audition for things that he doesn't believe would be right for him. So like he's really
Yeah.
tall. So why would you audition for a part that you need to be shorter because you already know you're not going to get it? And you have to go into it with confidence. And when it's something you really, really want, like if it's a job you're applying for those people that aren't going into the acting field, like confidence is something that people can just sense. And there's a difference between confidence and cockiness.
Yeah.
But when you feel like you've got it, it's just like a completely different feeling when you walk into that room, and like people can tell, like people are like, wow, this person really really wants this, really knows what he's doing, and it's a completely different feeling. So, like listening to you, I was like, it's a little bit about confidence there. Like your confidence started to fall, and that's usually why people don't get stuff.
100%. And yes, as you said, definitely applicable to job interviews. I mean, an audition for an actor is basically doing a job interview. It's like a job interview on steroids where your every move and expression is being scrutinized. But yes, putting the focus back on the others rather than, oh my God, am I good enough? Are they going to want me? So it's putting that focus on them. Even when you go into the room and just ask a question of the casting agent, put it on them. Take the focus off yourself and put it on them. That's a super helpful one. So I wanted to just bring something up because I wanted to be honest and candid here. I was just thinking today, like, what has really boosted my confidence? And I have to be honest, I think more than anything else was stopping drinking alcohol a couple of years back. Now, I also say that in no way telling people you need to be sober, right? I personally don't consider myself an alcoholic. It wasn't like there was some intervention or something like that. And I think a lot of people are just fine. But I just wanted to bring it up and say that it's been an amazing path forward for me. So much more clarity, so much more self-love, so much more happiness. I've sacrificed a little bit of pleasure, but my happiness has skyrocketed. And there is a difference when you think about it.
Yeah.
So I just simply wanted to state that and put that out there. In no way as a lecture. I think alcohol is a great and healthy part of a lot of people's lives. But I'm saying it because there might just be someone out there where it resonates, where they hear that and they go, God, I feel like I might be happier if I took a break from it for a week or a month. And if that turns into a year or more, great. So I'm just putting that out there in case it catches someone. Because I kind of heard people talking about what sobriety did for them. And it just hit me on that level of, oof, that connects to something. So I just wanted to put that out there and say it's been an amazing blessing for me. It's been probably 2.5 years now and no real intention of drinking again. It's just been great.
Yeah.
That's all I want to say.
I mean, like one of the things that I think is really important about confidence is like self-love. Like when it comes to like your confidence, you have to have self-love. And sometimes self-love, like digging down deep and loving yourself for everything that you are, is hard. Like it is not an easy task. And I think that alcohol, I think that sex, I think that going out and partying is a lot of things that people will use to distract themselves from the pain that they feel about something that they don't love about themselves.
Yeah.
And it becomes like this numbing thing that you use to just kind of numb that little pain that you feel. It might not be a huge pain. I think that a lot of people who really fall into alcohol and drugs and different things, like there's a really big thing that they're trying to heal from, but alcohol numbs it very, very temporarily. You can drink alcohol 24/7 and really just be numb to the entire world. But the best feeling is when you turn around and look at yourself in the mirror and really just look at yourself and say, like, I love you. I love you for everything that you are. And we're going to heal you from whatever pain is from your past. Because I think that, like, I've seen a lot of people, thankfully, I got to experience both of my parents drinking very heavily when I was younger, that it turned me off from alcohol to the point where it took my friends pointing out, like, you can have a drink and not become this crazy, horrible person. And I will drink occasionally. I'll say, like, 2020, I probably had, like, a bottle of wine and maybe a couple shots through the whole year. That's it. It hasn't really been anything that I've done. But like I said, like, those moments where anytime I felt that little twinge of, like, ouch, like something about myself I'm not happy with, or I want to ignore this pain that I'm feeling, instead of like trying to find ways to numb it or ignore it, I like really was just like, oh wow, that's something I need to look at. Like dig a little deeper and like why is that a pain? Why am I dealing with this? And I've talked to some people about I've read a lot of self-help books. I've talked to a lot of life coaches, counselors, friends about pain that I was feeling, and I really couldn't figure out what it was. And it wasn't until I read a book called Toxic Parents that really made it like as soon as I read it, I felt like the book was literally written about my life. And I realized that my dad experienced it with his dad, and maybe his dad felt it with his dad, and it was kind of trickling down. And anytime I experienced success because my dad didn't get to his goal that he set for himself, he would make it to where I couldn't really celebrate any success. And it was more of his toxic parenting of also he suffered from not being able to share his emotions, which that really hurt me because I am a very emotional person and I felt like I couldn't share myself and I was bad for sharing. And it really made me realize like I found the thing. Like it took 33 or 32 years. I'm not 33 yet. 33 this year. But it took that long for me to find a book where it was just like the aha moment of wow, that's it. That's what I was doing. I was allowing my constant need to get my dad's approval to put a damper on every single thing I've ever achieved in my life. I never could celebrate it because I needed my dad to celebrate it with me, and he never did. And after I realized that, I was just like, wow, I don't need that. Like, that sucks that he is struggling with that, and I would love for him to heal from that. But he doesn't have to heal for me to heal from that.
Right.
And I was just like, wow.
You can't fix him. There's nothing you can do, despite your best intent. You cannot make him whole on that. You know, all you can do is fix yourself.
Yeah.
Bro,
And
man.
it's an amazing thing to find. Like, it hurt a lot for me to dig
What?
deep because I was digging into every part of myself. I'm like my relationships with my sisters, my mom, my grandparents, my friends, my teachers. Like, where is this? Where is this part that is not allowing me to be happy?
Mm.
And when I found it, I was just like, oh, wow. Like, I don't need his approval. Like, it would be great if somehow our relationship could be fixed. I did a live with my little sister where we talked about our pains of growing up. We were very separated for 11 years, but experiencing the same pain. And I sent her that book, and both of us were just like, "That's it. That's where it was." And we have
Wow.
both been doing so much better since we've read the book, and really realized that it's not our problem to fix that. Like we're here to make ourselves happy, and it's we don't need a celebration with our dad to really celebrate our success.
Good for you, man. That's awesome. I got nothing I could possibly add to that. That's really profound. The only thing I could really say hearing that amazing story is you kind of followed the pain. You bravely kept leaning into the pain instead of numbing yourself, self-medicating to kill the pain. You followed it, and you followed it to the end of the path where there was a lesson and it was a huge learning. And that's the only thing I'd kind of want to, just to amplify what you said, encourage people to, instead of numbing, however they do it, gambling, sex, drinking, drugs, whatever it is, if you follow the pain, it almost always leads to some lesson that you need to learn. And again, I mentioned earlier about how the brain tends to focus on the negative. I do think we're programmed that way because it's normally to teach us something, and I've learned to have faith in that. So if something's causing pain in your system, it's drawing your attention to it. And it's normally for your own good if you really unpeel the layers and find what's behind it. I've found that every time I've done that in the last couple of years, it leads to an epiphany like that.
Yeah.
So good for you, dude. I just hats off to you. That's huge.
I don't know if you're getting this countdown, but this is something new. I've never seen a countdown before, but it's saying that there's like 30 seconds left. So I'm
Okay.
guessing they're
I think,
limiting our
yeah.
lives to an hour now.
Okay. Well, look,
How
I think
rude.
everything, and I love you, buddy. That was a lot of fun. Are we wrapping this
Yeah.
up?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, we could start a second live, but I guess we're wrapping this up. So thank you so much for doing a second live with me. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can do another one sometime soon.
Anytime, anytime. And Julian Arshore, follow me. Come say hi if you enjoyed this. I will say hi back, and we'll chat about all kinds of things.
Awesome.
All right, buddy.
Bye.
Talk soon.